If you're just getting started with jazz, you may be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of standards there are to learn and may not know where to start. So in today's video, I'm going to make things simple and give you 10 beginner jazz standards to learn that will give you a great entry into jazz and also help you learn important lessons along the way. That's coming right up. What's up, Brent here from LearnJazzStandards.com, which is a blog, a podcast, and videos all geared towards helping you become a better jazz musician. Make sure you subscribe at the button below and hit that bell notification if you have not done so already. Like I said, lots of jazz standards out there. So which ones do you start with, or which ones are the best ones to learn that can really help you start to get the gist, the idea of jazz, and have a good starting point to learn many more. So I'm going to go over my 10, but of course I want you to fill up the comments below and let me know what you think are some top beginner jazz standards for other musicians to learn. Go ahead and feel free to share with the community. I want to hear from you. All right, so let's jump right to that. Now, number one is C-jam blues. Now, a blues is really important to learn. It's an important song form in jazz, and it's a great way to get started into jazz. And C-jam blues is one of the easiest melodies you can possibly play. So that one is a great one to start out with. So if you look at C-jam blues, it's just the classic blues form. You got the 1 chord here, and then you've got the 4 chord, and then you've got the 1 chord again, back to the 4 chord, the 1 chord, and then the dominant 6 chord, really important, secondary dominant, going into the most famous chord progression of all, 2, 5, 1. So as far as learning the blues goes, C-jam blues is a really great way to go and really important to learn the blues. Number 2 is Mr.P.C. This is a John Coltrane tune written for Paul Chambers, Mr. Paul Chambers, and it's a minor blues. So we already covered the other kind of blues, and this is a minor blues. So a great introduction to minor harmony, fairly simple melody, lots of fun to play, and of course, covers that minor blues form. So starting with the minor 1 chord right here, and then going to the minor 4 chord right here, back to the minor 1, and then of course a minor 2, 5, 1 in the key of concert C in this case, which again is one of the most important chord progressions that you need to know in jazz, minor 2/5s and major 2/5s. So this is a great introduction into that. Now, number 3 is another really important song form in jazz, and that is rhythm changes. And the simplest rhythm changes I can think of is Lester Leaps In by Lester Young. Now, of course, rhythm changes, it's really not the easiest of chord progressions to learn. You have the 1, 6, 2, 5 chord progression, and they go by really fast, just 2 beats per chord right here. But, at the end of the day, this is a really important song form in jazz. You have to learn it, so why not learn a simple melody over top of it, and, you can slow it down, do all that stuff, and this is just a great introduction into rhythm changes. So number 3 is Lester Leaps In. Now, number 4 is a really popular jazz standard called Autumn Leaves. Many of you know about that one. Now, this one is a fairly simple melody, and the chords are fairly simple too. It's basically just major 2/5-1s and minor 2/5-1s. Again, the most important chord progressions in jazz, and really focuses on an important concept called relative keys, right? Relative majors to relative minors and vice versa. Now, I did an entire study of Autumn Leaves, another video, so I'll go ahead and link that up in the card above so that you can check that out later. But that's an important one to learn. Number 4, Autumn Leaves. Now, number 5 is a jam session favorite called There Is No Greater Love. This is a really fun tune to play. I think it's a great one to give to beginner students and all that sort of stuff. It just has a lot of great lessons in it. The melody's not too hard, and you have the major 1 chord here. You have the 4 chord, so it's kind of reminiscent of the blues, but then you have the 3, and then you have the 6. These are all lessons that are important. And then this one right here, you have basically what we call a secondary dominant, and it's basically the 2/5 chord, or a 2 dominant 7th chord, to the C minor here. So 2, 5, 1. So again, 2-5-1s everywhere, some blues harmony that we've already been working on with those other tunes. So it kind of combines all the best worlds of that. And then when you go to the bridge, you have your minor 2-5-1s right here, and it's actually a move to the relative minor, which happens in Autumn Leaves as well. So number 5, There's No Greater Love, great tune to learn. Now number 6 is a very common beginner jazz standard for whatever reason, and it's Blue Bossa. I guess there is a good reason. It's just another great introduction into simple minor harmony, but it also has a little fun twist in it where it goes into non-diatonic land, just a major key, a half step up from the minor parent key. And so it kind of introduces a little bit of non-diatonic harmony, but in a very friendly way. And it's just another jam session tune. So Blue Bossa is fairly simple and a great one to learn. Number 7 is St. Thomas. It's a Sonny Rollins tune. And, you know, it just has 1-6-2-5s in it. It's really not very difficult, just kind of the same chords over and over again. It's another jam session favorite. Like, you could just play over that for forever. It's also a straight 8th feel, which we haven't really talked about very much. I forgot to mention Blue Bossa, also straight 8th, kind of a bossa introduction to that side of jazz as well. But, you know, there's this sort of calypso feel in St. Thomas, so that's another great introduction to that, and just a lot of fun to play. Now, number 8 is So What or Impressions. They're the exact same chords. One is a Miles Davis one from Kind of Blue, and one is Ahead by John Coltrane. So, you know, this is just a great one to learn because it really introduces you into modal harmony. Now, it's great for beginners because you're only dealing with 2 chords, and they're just minor chords that are just a half step away from each other. Now, the difficult part of this is getting lost in the song form because you have so much of just one chord, but this gives, you know, a beginner lots of time just to really explore improvising over one chord at a time. So for that reason, I'm definitely adding So What or Impressions to this top 10 beginners list. Now, number 9 brings us back to the blues again, and that is All Blues by Miles Davis. Now, the reason I go back to the blues here is because it's in the key of G, which is an important key for blues, but the most importantly, it's in 3/4. And so you want to start getting introduced to improvising in 3/4 and, you know, playing tunes in 3/4. So All Blues is a really soft introduction into that, you know, not crazy changes. So this is just a really great way to start going with that. And of course, reinforce that blues, which is so important. Now, last but not least, number 10 is Doxy. Doxy by Sonny Rollins, another jam session favorite. Easy melody, pretty simple song form. Now this one starts with a dominant 7th chord for the 1 chord. So again, kind of this reinforcement of the blues. Now right here is what we call a tritone substitution that's leading into this dominant 6 chord that's going to this dominant 2 chord, which is a secondary dominant. I just talked about that before, but really it's a 2-5-1 back to the top here. And it's just in general a great tune. Now over here in the, I guess the second section you would call it, you have a 1 chord going to a 4 chord, going to a sharp 4, diminished right here with the E diminished 7. This is completely bluesy, right? But it's a little variation on the blues. So that's why this is such a great tune to learn as well. Now, of course, these are all just tunes. You need to learn them, and I have very specific ways that I believe are the best ways to learn jazz standards. So what I would suggest is, if you have not already, get my absolutely free guide called Learn Jazz Standards the Smart Way, learnjazzstandardsthesmartway.com, or I'll link that up here and in the description below. You can get that for free, and I walk through a very clear process for how to learn jazz standards by ear so that you never forget them. So be sure to check that out. Like I said, I want to hear from you. What jazz standards would you suggest for beginners? Fill up that comment section, absolutely chock full of as many of them as you can, and inspire other people with those, and looking forward to seeing those from you. All right, that's all for today's video. I want to thank you so much. Don't forget to just smash, destroy, you know, or lightly tap, or however you want to do it. You just hit that like button. Really helps me out. I appreciate you for doing that. Of course, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.